Welcome back to my channel. My name is Victor, if you're a first time viewer, and I'm just sharing my life reflections. I'm just trying to start this channel. There's a lot of things that I can talk about, and just so you know who I am and what I've been through, I'm going to share my testimony. So, I was born with a rare kidney disease called Alport syndrome. And so I grew up having a kidney disease, but until I got probably until in my 20s, my early 20s, my blood pressure was going high and I didn't know what was going on. So I went to the doctor and the doctor did blood tests and he told me that I needed to go on dialysis. And so I was like, man, I was young, like 20, early 20s. So I'm like, I really didn't want to do that. And at the time I was welding and my ankle swelled up. So I didn't really know what that was. So I told him I'll come back. And so I booked another um, appointment to go in there. And I was trying to get a second opinion. And when I went back to another hospital, the same doctor was taking care of me. It was like he was taking care of like two different hospitals. So this time he tells me it got a little worse. You need to go on dialysis. And so I was like, forget it. I got to go on dialysis. So I ended up going on dialysis. And I had to go on dialysis and do like 3 hours and 45 minutes. 3 hours and 45 minutes I had to go and get my blood clean. I was on the hemodialysis, and it wasn't that bad, because the way I looked at it is, for one, I was welding and I was just had started a family, and I was away from my family a lot because welding took me away. I had to get up early in the morning, leave while it was dark, come back while it was dark, take a shower, eat, do the same thing over and over and over. So I wasn't really feeling that, but I looked at it like a blessing, like, man, I don't have to do the welding no more, because it was taking, but I do have to go on dialysis. So I ended up having to go on dialysis and I was on the kidney transplant list and I had to be on dialysis for over 10 years. I think it was around 10 years. So I had to go on dialysis, and I was just moving along and I was staying positive about it. I would just go because I had to go. It was keeping me alive. I never really had any complications because whatever they told me I needed to do, I did. For example, they would tell me it was hard to keep your fluids under control, especially I went Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. So Saturday and Sunday I was off. And that's where you accumulate more fluid. So I just, tried to watch it, drink. I mean, everything you eat, basically a lot of stuff has fluid. So anyway, I would eat ice and try to do that. And I seen people come in there, get real sick. Some didn't make it because it was too much on their heart because they had too much fluid. But I always just looked at it like, man, I'm alive. I'm gonna do the best I can. I'm gonna take care of myself, and I did that. In the midst of that, I was divorced. Just went through a divorce, so I was just going to church. I started going to church, and I found I met this guy. He was a pastor, and I met him one day going to the store, and he came up to me and he was like, hey, you listen to gospel music? And I was like, nah, I really don't. And at the time I wasn't listening to gospel music. I was just listening to a lot of rap and stuff like that, R&B. And so I bought his CD, and his name is Michael Hart. And so I listened to his CD forever. I put that thing in and it was like, very well put together. It was very well put together where I gave it a chance and I started listening to it. So I was listening to his CD, and that became my favorite CD. It was like ministering to me, the words, the beat. It wasn't no old school stuff. It was like up to date beats and stuff like that is what I had liked anyway. And so I kept listening to his CDs, listening to it. And I went through a transition. I had to kind of, when I went on dialysis, I was welding. I was a contractor, and I was subcontracting for this iron worker company. So I was doing that stuff. I had to stop all this. And so when I did that, my truck that I had a welding machine, a truck, and I was working for myself. I had to give it up. Like, I couldn't afford it no more because I lost the income that I was getting. I had some money put aside, but I had to basically go on disability, do that, Social Security, and was getting that money. But I lost that stuff, and so I had to move with a family member, which was my sister. So and it was kind of like my sister, my brother, kind of just trying to figure that one out because really wasn't too much I could do, And so I stayed with them, did that, was listening to his CD, and ended up and then I left the town that we were in, and I went down, I was living in the high desert in California, and then I went to Compton to stay with my brother, but that didn't really work out too good because we used to bump heads. So I was like, in order for us to have a good relationship, I was like, you know what? I'm gonna go back to my sister's house, which was in the high desert. And so I did. And that week that I did, I ended up pulling up in the same area. It probably was a couple years, they had passed, or it was over a year had passed. And I ended up driving in the same location where I got that CD from him. And he was there again. And mind you, like, it's been a little bit of time, and I wore out that CD. So when I saw him, I was like, cool, he was selling CDs. I was like, man, I had your CD, but I wore it out. So I bought another one. He was like, yeah, man, I'm starting a church next Sunday at this address. He was like, why don't you come out? And so I went to this church, and man, the Holy Spirit was moving. All the stuff that he was saying was just relatable to me in life. And it started to change my life. And I started going to church and stuff like that. And I would go to his house because it was kind of new. So we would have Bible study in his living room. And I would go. It was like Tuesdays or something like that. And so I would go, and I kept going, and there was this one girl that I dated when I was in high school that came to that church and remembered me. I didn't remember her because she looked different, a little different. And I didn't remember her. She came up to me and was like, is your name Victor? And I'm like, yeah. And she told me her name, and I was like, wow. And I was like, wow. When she left, it was like she had to leave to go to another state. And she wrote me a couple of times, and then she ended up getting another boyfriend and doing that stuff. And so I liked her, but when I seen her again, I was thinking like, maybe this is something, that I, may pursue, because it's like sometimes I look at things like it wasn't a coincidence, or could it be? And so I talked to her a few times, and she came to church. And one day I was standing outside with Michael Hart, Pastor Michael Hart. I was standing outside with him and stuff, and he was like, we was just talking, and something came up with, like, I don't know who was I looking like. Did I see somebody that I liked or something? I don't even remember all that, to be honest. But I guess I was telling him that about the girl that I used to date, and I seen her, and he was like, I don't see that, and he was like, you don't see nobody else in here, and I'm like, man, mind you, I wasn't trying to go to church to find a girlfriend or find someone. I was just going to church because I knew that was what I needed, and I needed to get my stuff together, as far as my relationship back with Christ. And that was happening at the time. And so I was good, and he was like, you don't see anybody? And then he was like, what about Rayvon? And that's my wife now. But I was like, she good. She look good. And I was like, he was like, you should ask her out. And I was like nervous to ask her out. Why? Because she's beautiful. She is a beautiful woman. She had things going for her, even though, like, I was in a situation where I was in transition, so I was kind of looking at that, and I was like, I listened to him, and I'm glad I did. I listened to him. So this is part of the testimony, y'all. I ain't just going off. Stay with me. So I, one day after Bible study, I went up to her and I asked her, can I get her number? And I was like, so maybe we can talk and maybe we can have Bible study. That was kind of the line, the nerdy line that I gave her. But she was like, sure. She accepted it. And I started to talk to her, call her and stuff like that. And I already knew this lady was humble. She looked good. And I was like, cool. We were dating, we was talking and stuff like that. And we ended up, like, I already knew when I met her that was going to be my wife. So I didn't wait that long. And one time at a Bible study, I asked her to marry me. But in between that, Pastor Michael Hart, he was becoming my friend. I used to talk to him all the time, and he encouraged me. He was like, man, you should seek God and see, what's going on with this, is this the one for you? So we sat in my car, we opened up the Bible and we prayed, and then we opened up and it was talking about marriage, and we did that. We closed it up and we opened it talking about marriage and talking about relationships. So I took it like, yes, I'm going to ask her to marry me. And so I set it up on a testimony night, like, a Bible study. And usually you ask anybody have a testimony. And I was like, I have a testimony. And I stood up and I just was testifying how good it was and how I met, Rayvon and stuff like that. And I broke down and I asked her to marry me. And she said yes, but I was so nervous before that. I was too nervous. I was like I couldn't hardly breathe. I was like, I needed water. I thought I was going to pass out for real. But I made it through and I asked her and she said yes. And within a year or so like that, we got married. And we was married for a couple of years before we had my wife got pregnant. Now she's pregnant. Couple years later, and mind you, I'm on dialysis. I'm going to dialysis. I'm on the list like that. And one day when she had my daughter, she came back and she was like, what is your blood type? And I'm like, I don't know. That's not something that I was caring about. And then she told me hers, and then I went back and I found out what mine is, and it was a perfect match. A perfect match. And so I'm like, I'm cool. Like she's willing to give me a kidney. And so she went through the whole process of giving me like the whole process. And it wasn't, it was a criteria that you had to meet, and she met all the criteria. And I was able to get a kidney from her. And so the crazy thing is, when I was on the kidney list, the transplant list for like 10 years basically, and the week before, they called me and said, we might have a kidney for you. I was excited. I was so excited because I already knew that my wife was the one that was going to give me the kidney, or because she could. But I was like, if I get another kidney from somebody else, that'd be even great, because I know I have a backup if anything happened. That's what I'm thinking. Like, my wife won't have to go through that, but if something happened, I can get a kidney from her. But by the end of the day, they called me and said, nah, it didn't match. It didn't look right. We gave it to somebody else. So the next week, so my birthday is on September 30th. We went in the hospital on September 28th. And I got my kidney on my birthday. Well, on the 28th. I was in there through my birthday. My wife's birthday is on October the 4th. And I came home on her birthday. That's awesome. And so now I'm living with a kidney, and it's been like 14 years, I think. Like 14 going on 15 years that I had this kidney. And so every time I go to the doctor to do my 3-month checkup, 4-month checkup, all my labs are right. They have this blood test now that'll tell you how strong your kidney is. Like, are you in risk of being rejecting the kidney? And my doctor, every time I come, he said, everything's good, everything's good, everything's good. He is like, this is good, you know. And it just makes me happy because I'm doing the right things. I'm eating right. I take my medicine on time. I take it, I have to take medicine for life. It's an anti-rejecting medicine, but you know, it's something that I just got used to. I set my alarm and I take my medicine when my alarm goes off, and everything's cool. And it's been cool for all this time. So that's my testimony. I don't think I left anything out, but we've been married for going on 18 years now. And so everything's good. And that's my testimony. I appreciate it. If you watched all the way to the end, man, I appreciate you. Like I always say, man, I really do. I'm just trying to grow this channel. I'm trying to be comfortable in this space of content creation and just share my experiences, just share my journey, just share just what God with me, like what he's doing in me. I reflect every day. Like life isn't easy. It gets hard, you know, especially trying to live with integrity, and especially trying to live with good character, you know, just trying to follow what is good. And so I appreciate you. Can you subscribe to this channel? And can you leave a comment? And if you do, what I've been doing is, whoever leaves a subscription with me, I'll subscribe to them and I'll watch their content too. So until next time, I appreciate you. Thank you again, and God bless.